Afternoon. I'm Dr. Caroline Heldman. I'm a musician, a survivor, and the executive director of the Representation Project. We are a nonprofit organization founded by Jennifer Siebel Newsom to challenge harmful gender stereotypes and norms, and our End Rape campaign centers the voices of survivors and works to eliminate sexual violence in all major industries. I am joined today by a coalition of nonprofit organizations to present this report, Sound Off, Make the Music Industry Safe. This report was generated by one of the top research firms in the United States, and it is the first comprehensive account of 7 decades of sexual harassment and sexual violence in the music industry. This report is the first step in an unprecedented, multi-stage, aggressive advocacy campaign to hold the music industry accountable. Beyond releasing this report, we will outline demands for reforms, calls for new legislation, as well as a demand for congressional hearings, and we will mobilize consumer activists. Music executives need to buckle up because this is going to be a bumpy ride. Before we begin, a quick trigger and activation warning. We will be hearing from survivors of sexual violence today. If you are a survivor who is here in the room with us, or if you're watching online, please take care of your emotional and mental health. Let's jump right into this. First, we're going to hear from celebrated drummer Sam Maloney. She is the co-founder of the Punk Rock Therapists, and as I like to call her, the Erin Brockovich of the music industry. Sam.
Thank you. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Sam Maloney. I am a rock drummer turned music executive turned survivor advocate for victims of sexual assault in the music industry. People ask me if I'm still drumming. I've never stopped. I'm just beating a different drum. A drum for justice, a drum for accountability, a drum for survivors, a drum for education, educating the public of the epic failures of a music industry which have promoted and profited off of serial sexual predators for years. This report was not made for the music industry. They have known all along. This report was made to educate music fans all over the world just how bad this systemic challenge has been, and to ask Congress to open up investigations to force change of the music industry's assault on women. We're educating the public about an industry where it's more convenient for a major record label to push out their once highest executive earner and silence her with an NDA than getting rid of the perpetrators that crept inside their walls. In an industry where record labels, along with their artists and management teams, silence, shame, victim blame, and threaten legal action with bogus defamation claims that don't seem to be working so well these days. We're done with it. This past year, I, along with Christina Cerati, a therapist by trade, co-founded the Punk Rock Therapist. It's a nonprofit organization which provides free mental health therapy to victims of sexual assault in the music industry. Unfortunately, we're overwhelmed with requests for support every day from women all over the world. I spent years listening to survivors, years of taking names. I now work with women across the world. We have become a tsunami of power. We will not stop until the music industry stops sexually abusing women. A note to the CEOs of Warner, Universal, and Sony Music. I hope you finally realize that you fucked with the wrong women. Thank you.
PG-13. And now some remarks from Gretchen Carlson, who is the co-founder of Lift Our Voices. Gretchen is traveling today, so fearless survivor activist Lily Bernard will be reading Gretchen's statement.
Good afternoon.
I am Gretchen Carlson, the co-founder of Lift Our Voices, a nonprofit to transform the American workplace. We are laser focused on eradicating silencing mechanisms, forced arbitration, and NDAs. Our work helped to get 2 federal laws passed in 2022 to give sexual misconduct survivors their voices and to own their truths as they seek justice. We stand together today to demand a safe and inclusive workplace in the music industry. This report documents 7 decades of sexual violence and cover-up in the music industry. This is simply not acceptable. We call upon congressional leaders to investigate the music industry, hold congressional hearings, get to the bottom of why this industry has failed to comply with the basic state and federal employment laws and basic human decency. We implore leaders in the House and the Senate, Republican and Democratic leaders alike, use your power to make the music industry safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. We will now hear some remarks from the incomparable survivor activist, Angela Rhodes, who is the founder of PAVE.
Hi, my name is Angela Rhodes, and I'm the founder and the executive director of PAVE, Promoting Awareness, Victim Empowerment. PAVE is a national nonprofit organization that supports and empowers survivors and strives to prevent sexual violence through education, advocacy, and community action. I'm also a guitar player, and I've loved music since I was a little girl. Just 1 month ago, I stood alongside other survivors to announce 5 demands of the Make Music Industry Safe campaign. This report confirms that we need to act now to make the music industry safer. Here's our 5 demands. First, a no non-disclosure agreement that silences survivors. I have stood next to multiple women in this room who've been pressured to sign NDAs to cover up sexual abuse. We must stop the silencing of survivors that allow predators to continue their violence. Some states, like California, have already begun to ban the use of NDAs in sexual abuse cases. We call upon the music industry to adopt its own requirements to ban NDAs. Second, mandated policy protocols. If you see something, to say something. We need to embolden bystanders to speak up without fear of retaliation. The music industry should adopt such protocols so that all bystanders know that they will be safe if they report what they saw. Third, establish an independent organization funded by MusiCares, the Make Music Industry Safe division. Earlier this month, the Recording Academy told the LA Times that they have a zero tolerance policy when it comes to sexual misconduct, but they've been nominating known predators for awards for years. This is just one example of why women in this industry know that any report that they make about sexual abuse will not be handled in a fair and an independent way. An independent organization supported by this industry must be established to properly handle and evaluate reports of sexual abuse and harassment in the music sector. Fourth, maintain an updated publication of celebrities and executives credibly accused of sexual assault and harassment. Our Sound Off report is a great start, but the music industry needs to do much more to root out its known predators. This is not a new concept, by the way. The Catholic Church itself has been required to issue reports of those credibly accused of sexual abuse within its organization. We cannot possibly address this systemic challenge unless the public understands the full scope. Fifth, formally adopt a survivor bill of rights for the music industry. The Bill of Rights should clearly delineate the unfettered rights to which a survivor is entitled to address sexual abuse or sexual harassment within this industry. This would be a major step towards ensuring that survivors get the justice that they deserve. The music industry must change now. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. And now we will hear some remarks from the incomparable musician, composer, and inventor, Nomi Abadi, who is also the president and founder of the Female Composer Safety League.
Good afternoon. My name is Nomi Abadi. I'm the president and founder of the Female Composer Safety League. We are a nonprofit organization that fights to make the composing industry free from sexual abuse, harassment, prejudice, and marginalization. Last month, the UK House of Commons recently held a series of hearings to investigate their music industry. They released a report documenting decades of sexual harassment and violence in their music industry, and British executives covering it up. Women had their lives ruined and their careers destroyed by men who never faced consequences for their actions. If UK leaders are taking action, surely our political leaders in the US can and should take action too. I grew up in the music industry. From the time I began playing piano with symphony orchestras when I was 5 years old, through navigating the alternative rock and metal scene in my 20s, and now the composing industry in my 30s. It seems that every corner of the music industry that I've encountered have something in common. Powerful men who stood between me and my dreams. Through the formation of the Female Composer Safety League, however, I came to learn that this was not just my reality, but a reality faced by most women who dream of having a music career, especially for women of color. NDAs are one of the many tools that the music industry uses to silence and suppress survivors. But we will not be silenced. We demand to be heard and seen so that we can put an end to sexual harassment and violence. As artists, we just want to share our creativity with the world and work in a safe environment where we can thrive. We call upon the music industry to adopt our 5 basic demands to make the music industry safe for women. And we urge Congress to hold hearings to bring accountability to the music industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Nomi. We will now hear from Sarah Lewis, a music industry executive who faced terrible abuse in the industry.
Hi, I'm Sarah Lewis, former executive in the music industry and a survivor of sexual abuse. I filed a lawsuit against my predator and other defendants in October of last year. No one ever wants to be considered a victim. No one aspires to have to manage the daily arsenal of fear, sadness, and depression that come with being groomed, sexually harassed, sexually assaulted, and raped. The allegations of my experience are set out in my lawsuit. My predator used his position to make me believe that I might have a mentor to help guide me. I couldn't have been more wrong. Abuse itself has no linear pathway, at least not one seen at the time by the victim, but predators know exactly what they're doing. Most experiences with women begin with what we now call grooming, a word that wasn't normalized until recently, and puts an appropriate label to behavior that aims to separate, isolate, and manipulate. I won't belabor the statements of survivors with what often over time devolves from grooming to sexual assault and rape, but rather, I want to emphasize what could have made all the difference at the time and what we all fight for now today. Predators and their behavior need to be brought into the light. Having systems in place, protocol, and an understanding of the systemic issues at play and calls to action must be established to guide victims. And in that process, the power that comes with being a predator in the industry would be diminished and over time, canceled out. With this, I believe the cancer of sexual assault would be eradicated and no longer able to survive within its host, the host of the music industry, an industry complicit in its wrongs, that has long enabled and encouraged the victimization and mass targeting of its female executives. The long-standing damage of sexual assault is internal, unseen. We carry it with us wherever we go. We lose our worth, our privacy, our energy, our time, our safety, our intimacy, our confidence, our voice, our laughter, and our careers. Truly, though, my career was one of the least concerning things in the context of what was stolen away from me. I've been inside this industry. I've seen how pervasive this issue is. Mine is not an isolated incident. This is the baseline. This was and is a war that is fought daily by women everywhere. And you'd be hard-pressed to single out one woman who could tell you that she hadn't ever felt the need to white-knuckle her days because there was a man waiting nearby to lean suggestively over her desk, touch her inappropriately, or say something horrible. A man standing between her and her job. It's time for a reckoning within the music industry. Women everywhere deserve to pursue their dreams without the fear of being assaulted. It's time for real change, and I just hope by sharing these stories, we can make a contribution to bring about this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Now we will hear from Michelle Rhodes. She's a survivor of egregious sexual violence from a world-famous rock performer. And this is the first time that Michelle is sharing her story in such a public setting.
Hello. My name is Michelle Rhodes, and I am a survivor of Axl Rose, lead singer of Guns N' Roses. I am his former 15-year-old girlfriend who became pregnant with his baby and suffered a miscarriage just days before he would violently attack me, along with his roadie and 2 other men. I was in 10th grade at Fairfax High at the time, and Axl Rose was 23. The attack took place in December of 1985 at the band's rehearsal space. And after this assault, Axl Rose would pick up my limp, bruised, and bloodied body and throw it out into the parking lot like a piece of trash. I was horrified and confused. I had no idea that he was even capable of doing something like this to me. In my teenage brain, I thought he loved me, and I was very wrong. While he was evading arrest and hiding out at his ex-manager's house, my mother and I were being pressured by the other band members to not go to court. They were on the verge of being signed, and their bass player even came to my house and promised my mother and I that Axl Rose would get mental help and that he wouldn't hurt any other girls. They all wanted me to consider that if Axl went to jail, that their dreams would be destroyed. Geffen Records called my mom, and they were fully aware of the sexual assault that had happened, and yet went forward with their plans to sign the band. After immense emotional pressure from the other members of the band who were my close friends at the time, I caved in and I decided not to go to court. And Axl Rose walked free. Weeks later, Geffen Records signed Guns N' Roses. And just months after that, the band was already starting to spin the story that there was no rape of a minor. I'm here to tell you that I am that woman. And Axl Rose raped me as a 15-year-old girl. And since that time, I have found out that he has hurt many other women, women like Sheila Kennedy, who I may have been able to save if I could have just held him accountable for his actions then. Geffen Records and Guns N' Roses continue to profit off the lies. And I am here to stand strong for all of us now and stop this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having the courage to share your experience. Our heart goes out to you for the pain that you've endured all of these years. Today, we have heard the voices of composers, of artists, of music industry executives, and others harmed by this industry. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. Our report is a damning indictment of longstanding practices in the music industry, and we are here today to say enough is enough. Imagine the creative talent that we will never know, women, men, gender expansive, gender non-conforming folks, because the music industry has artificially limited the talent pool by propping up abusers and rapists while silencing talented survivors. We are delivering this letter to the CEOs of the Universal Music Group, Warner Music Group, and Sony, demanding immediate implementation of our 5 demands. We will also personally deliver these letters to the officers of key congressional leaders in both the House and the Senate. We will not let up until the music industry is safe for every last person. Thank you for coming today, and this concludes our press conference. If there are reporters who would like to speak with survivors, we can make that happen after this event. Again, thank you for coming out today for our sound off, Make the Music Industry